So I can go in and actually go, if I'm talking about the ideal customer profile, and I've got a handful. Wrench is obviously for sales teams, for marketing teams, for whatever. It can go, which of the ideal kind of customer profiles are you closest to? Digital marketing and agencies, bro. That's
GTM AI Podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K, where you get the latest with AI and GTM today. GTM AI Podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K. Tune in now.
All right,
today.
good morning, good
Just the
evening,
future
good afternoon,
on
everyone.
display.
It is I, Coach K, aka Jonathan Carford, or maybe it's the other way around. Jonathan Carford, aka Coach K, whatever it is. It's me. And this is the GTM AI Podcast. I am so excited to finally have on someone who I highly respect and admire in the AI space, Mr. Dan Baird, who is the CEO of Wrench.ai. How are you, my man?
How you doing, sir? Very good to finally get to sit down and chat with you. I appreciate it.
I know we've had a chance to chat. I mean, obviously non-recorded versions of this, but you're someone who I highly respect and admire in the AI space. You're just an overall good dude. And it was so nice to see you. I think it was at Forrester. Was it Forrester last year or Gartner? I can't remember.
I don't want to
One of
even
those
say.
two.
Was it LeadsCon? Might have been. Nah?
I can't remember. I think it might have been Gartner. I can't remember. Maybe it was AI. I don't know. It was one of these events, but I finally saw you in person. I'm like, it's Dan. It was so weird because I'm used to seeing you on the screen. I saw you in person. I'm like, hey, what's up? It's so nice. So anyways, it's so glad to have you. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm busy. I like being busy. I'm busy. I'm having fun. Working on cool stuff, seeing some fun traction. I'm having fun. I'm busy. Good thing for me.
I love it. So I'm going to ask you a first question. I don't usually ask people first, but I'm going to ask you. What do you think of OpenClaw?
So I've got scars from this space.
me.
Half of our joke on this one, I've been doing innovation strategy for a while, but doing AI 9 some years. The Wrench, my company that I founded, has been around that long. And I've kind of come to the conclusion that there is a nice little Goldilocks zone where you don't want to be first. And on that one, I am very intrigued and also very happy that I am not using it yet. I know about it. I'm following it very closely. I have not touched it myself yet on purpose. I think it's one of those where I'm going to wait a little bit because the framework is fascinating. I very much think it has legs, but also I'm going to let some other people make the mistakes on this one.
I'm the same way. I thought about buying a separate computer to test it on, but like with Momentum, we're uber super secure, so I can't let it touch anything I have with work because it's like already. It's just kind of security no go, But the concept of it, I think, is awesome. So I wanted to get into it because I know that you're deep in this. I just want to get your take on what it is. And are you going to take any of it and apply? What do you think?
Oh yeah. And you better believe I've got Raspberry Pis, Android phones, and old phones like laying around.
You got all this
I'm
stuff,
ready to try all manner of it. But I'm the same thing as you. Like when we do it, we kind of come off and work on the enterprise side of AI. I think there's a slightly different appeal and work there. And while there is that waterfall where you can go, okay, this is the coolest, tip of the spear type stuff, you really do have to be careful. And I don't know if you're watching all the fun stuff or people are just going, okay, it just deleted all of my files from terminal. I cannot get them back. It took $250,000 of some guy's Bitcoin and sent it to someone who was asking for donations of $4 or something. It's one of those where a lot of people, I don't think they realize AI is fantastic. The automation is awesome, but it allows you to make mistakes at scale too. And there's a lot of that where I go, I'll let other people make the mistakes at scale. And when it has a little bit more governance and a little bit more security and a few more safeguards, then we'll play with it. Because I don't know about you, I've gotten those OpenAI bills of $2,000 token consumption for 1 or 2 days of not paying attention. And I'm not looking for another one right now.
You got enough of those things running wild. Yeah. Tell me this, because everyone doesn't know you yet. Tell me who Dan Baird is, the non-LinkedIn resume version, and then give me a little spiel on Wrench and what the heck you guys do.
I think it's fair to say at this point in my career, I am a builder and I am proud to be a builder. I am an entrepreneur. And although I'm not necessarily proud of that, I think it's a mental illness. I think most people are entrepreneurs because they have to be, not because they choose to be. But I'm a guy who's been building stuff most of my career. One of my first companies, I was the co-founder of Lovesac. If you've seen the big beanbag chairs, I was one of those guys that built that thing. I had a ton of fun doing that in college. And it's now being traded publicly. So that's a really fun kind of backstory, but
that's crazy.
Loved building that thing from scratch kind of thing. A handful of people in a garage type of situation. One of the earlier kind of bootstrap successes. And found that I absolutely love building product. Right there, I was doing the product design at 30 employees at 19 years old and loved building stuff. Ended up building a bunch of stuff professionally. I went to school and did an MBA in entrepreneurship just because I wanted to do product design. And I ended up working at ConAgra, building and doing stuff for Orville Redenbacher and Healthy Choice. If you go to your local grocery store right now, you can pull up Marie Callender's frozen lasagna and see my poetry written on the side of the box still.
I love it.
Launched the first frozen Greek yogurt, but really love doing the innovation in the 0 to 1 stage of companies. So I've kind of built my profession and career doing that for myself and for others. And I love doing that stuff. I love traveling. I like new stuff. I want to put new wrinkles on my brain. I don't like doing the same thing twice. That is very much my personality and my style. So I do that. I build stuff in my free time, 3D printers and crap like that. I am absolutely infatuated with that. I'm printing planes in my basement right now. We're building RC cars with my kids and doing that type. I like getting my hands dirty, and I don't know how to play with them once they're built either. I'm like,
he's got to get something new.
The building part is my fun. My kids are like, now let's go fly. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm building the next one.
I'm going to build another one.
But it is very much part of my DNA. So I do that.
Well, I've been wanting to get my kids in it. They're not quite old enough yet, but when they get there, I'm going to totally come bug you. So what should I get for a 3D? That's awesome. I love it.
Dude, I should even bring it in here, but I have a full life-size Allosaurus skull that I printed. It looks like it's straight out of a museum in the other room.
That's awesome.
When my windows are open, people stop by in front of my house and they just stare and they, what a freaking dinosaur skull. And it looks like a legit dinosaur skull.
I love it. Did you make that just plastic? What's it made out of?
So the 3D printers, they're pouring out plastic, and you can go find really high detail scans of dinosaur skulls from like the Natural History Museum, and I'll print full size, and they look like legit museum artifacts.
Here's the question: when are you going to be printing your own robot and putting AI in it and have your own version of whatever?
Oh, plans are in the works, my friend. Dude, I've been working on, my kids are learning those little drag and drop Python, Minecraft education. I'm like, we're building a Jarvis. We're absolutely building a Jarvis for sure.
That's awesome.
It's coming.
That's
coming. It's coming.
Tell me
my kids are 8.
I love it, man. I love it. Tell me the goods about Wrench. So what is because you've always been doing this for a while. Wrench has been around for a while. So what was the problem in the space? Let me go back. What's the problem in space now? Because I know it's obviously changed in the years, but what's the problem now, and what's Wrench doing how's it fit in the marketplace so people can
For sure. The original and still the problem that I found that still exists, and I argue will still exist for some time, is figuring out who to talk to, what to say, and how to say it. I used to, even when I was working on the ConAgra stuff, $12 billion company, we'd do focus groups, and I'd sit behind the one-way glass and I'd watch how people would interact with products and prototypes. And I would figure out, all right, how do we satisfy and how do we basically hit that trigger of, I am willing to pay for this prototype, this product. And by the way, you actually see me, I'm realizing that lights up.
Yeah. Oh, you look good. You look good.
It's the first time.
I'll be honest with you. Most of the hosts won't say that. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, done. But Wrench was built because a long time ago, people couldn't personalize communication, and I knew that it worked really well. As an example, just weird sub facts to back this up. People talk about it, but the best salespeople actually ask the most questions. They listen more. And if you go look, one of the better investments in your marketing programs is personalization. And when you combine that, especially with it's useful in marketing, it's useful in sales, it's useful in everything, and you get rewarded highly for it. A lot of the ROIs are like 20x, very high ROI activities, and it evolves. It is one of those things where I go, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, if we could do what everyone does right now, hey, Coach K saw that we both went to the U of U or whatever, like the stuff that's in every single email that you're receiving right now. That would have been absolutely phenomenal. Even 2-3 years ago, it was relatively rare, and now it's table stakes, but people are looking for another level of connection. So Wrench was there to build that and basically help people kind of find, the code name for it originally was RoboCMO. We wanted to basically go, hey, look, there's a lot of people that are working out of their garages, building stuff. Cool.
RoboCMO. Okay, cool.
It was literally trying to build a Steve Jobs. If there's a Steve Wozniak out there, and he's got a really cool product, how do we help him get it in front of the right people that actually understand what he's built, get the vision, and do all that stuff? So one of the first things we did, the team patented machine learning based hyper targeting. Is an example. One of the things we did is we started analyzing, kids are here. We started analyzing you could do it on your LinkedIn profile, but we would analyze people's speech patterns and their authored text. and we would compare that to the category jargon. So if we're selling video games and you start and you say things like gamer, Xbox, whatever, if it recognizes jargon from the category, it recognizes you as an early adopter in that category. Early adopters are less price sensitive. They're more willing to try prototype product. They're more willing to stand in line for a product. If you're rolling out a new product, that's who you want to send it to first. And a lot of people know the term early adopter, but they don't know how to actually pull them out of their existing audience and their lookalikes. We built tech like that, basically going, okay, here are the people that really want to hear your message. And here's how you can potentially recognize some of their preferences. You know, extroverts like the demeanor of other extroverts. They already understand the rules of the road. And you can't really train that, but you can recognize it, program it into the conversation. Say if I'm doing outbound calling or something like that, pair extroverts with other extroverts and they hit it off. Their sales cycles speed up, and a lot of really cool, nifty things that you can't teach happen, including more revenue just because you actually shrunk your sales cycle down by putting people that communicate similarly in the same room. So Wrench is doing some kind of nifty stuff like that.
Kind of nifty. I think it's freaking cool. So how do you, because all these other players, especially with AI coming out in, in large 2022, you have Clay and you have, there's a bajillion top of funnel prospecting type tools, AI SDRs, that kind of stuff. How do you feel that you compare or compete different? Yeah. Give me how would someone think about you versus whatever other tool?
A lot of it's decisioning. So some of the stuff we talked about, like OpenClaw, is actually a really relevant kind of question as well, because there's a lot of really cool tools out there, but just because the tool exists doesn't mean you should use it.
Yeah.
Again, if you notice, everybody that's doing that outreach right now and is doing your personal emails right now, they all kind of sound the same, right? They can recognize and they kind of have a helpful tone. They can sometimes personalize the message to you based off your historical memory. What they're not good at is personalizing it to your audience. I know who you are. I know who your brand is, but now I actually understand who your recipient is. And I'm adapting literally the messaging to their preferences. Am I using more data-driven or social proof depending on their preferences? So that's a big part of it. And there's still actually a ton of clarifying communication rules that are really basic that we still don't do. When people say branding, they oftentimes think you mean logos, but in reality, what you're trying to do is remove the psychological friction from your interaction and saying, look, whether you interact with me on the phone, text, commercials, email, ads, whatever, newsletter, I should have the same tone of voice so that you think of me as kind of a proper noun. I don't want to be known as a or I don't want to be a tissue. I want to be a Kleenex. I don't want to be a copier. I want to be Xerox, right? You get there by refining that communication. And again, the more people get good at it, the higher the bar gets raised, which is why I go, it's never going to go away. The way we differentiate, one part of that patent and stuff is actually using different multi-decisioning models behind the scenes. So instead of just plugging it into an LLM the way a Clay operator will, where again, you're relegated to how your current go-to-market engineer is doing their workflow. And most of those people, they're focused on automating the workflow. They're not focused on how do you actually increase the likelihood of conversion from that workflow.
Optimize, yeah.
It's like kind of the problem with if you use LLMs for all your decisioning, you eventually start to notice that they do a lot of things poorly, right? They're great at summarizing information. They're not as good at arithmetic. They're not as good at counting the number of R's in the word blueberry or whatever else, right? You see that type of stuff. And one of the ways you get to better reasoning is if we start to build kind of a coherent profile of someone behind the scenes, here's their personality, and you start to actually put real mathematical decisioning behind it, like machine learning. And then you have your LLMs just display and talk to that data layer. They're much more accurate and it's much more predictable and it's much more likely to actually work. So again, a lot of kind of the pressure that you're seeing in AI, and you hear from Jan LeCun, who used to be the head researcher from Meta. He's starting to say, hey, we need more sophisticated models. There's a ceiling on GPTs. They cannot do a lot of this reasoning. And it may not be the best place to even go into AI if you're a new grad student or whatever. And so this is one of the ways you do it. So Wrench can do on brand. It can do person to person. It can do different content types. And then if we're in enterprise situations where there's real money at stake, it's a better solution where you can, if you're that person that's in charge of the budget and dollars, you can go, okay, cool. I'm less likely to get fired if this doesn't work because I actually did my research on who we're talking to. So yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they hear AI, they not that they're confused. It's just that there's 15 different types minimum of AIs that go through, from RAG to RPA to machine learning to computer vision to all this other crap that people just lay on the AI. So I think sometimes that generalization cheapens some experiences because there are some tech out there that literally they're just wrappers on top of an LLM doing some sort of email based on LinkedIn profile analyzation, and that's it, and comparing that to what you have with obviously a different, it's not a large language model, it's a machine learning type model, which works totally differently, has different results. I think once you start to understand the difference, like I understand what you're saying when you say this, I saw people hearing it, like going, oh, because so I'm asking, saying, how would you define the difference between a machine learning model that you use versus just slapping a prompt over an AI saying, analyze this LinkedIn profile, whatever.
Yeah. One, if you were baking a cake, one of them would be like saying, hey, can you throw things together that you generally think are included and probably work? You'll know sugar's in there, right? Those LLMs are based on, and I'm oversimplifying this, but they're autocomplete on steroids. They've read the entire publicly available web. They've read and they've counted the frequency of which words are next to other words in concession, right? Which ones are the most common to be before and after based on the prior words. That's why, like, when you see ChatGPT, it looks like it's writing one word at a time. It's predicting that next word, right? But that means most of the time what it's doing is based on kind of popularity. Machine learning, on the other hand, it's statistics on steroids. It's a different tool that allows you to say, I can generate and analyze and interpret 2,000 columns surrounding a given prediction at once. And that means that in other situations like predicting for cancer, if I need to find a solution that's a zag instead of a zig, not the popular answer, what's the less common answer that requires more thought, prediction, and waiting? If I want the actual recipe that doesn't just tell me that it's sweet, but it tells me exactly how much salt is in that cake, because really good confectionery and desserts actually have salt in them, machine learning is a better tool for that. And so right now, a lot of people don't realize there's actually a ton of really horrible decisioning being done out there. Massive. I would argue most, damn near all, that's involving, hey, develop a lead score or a persona profile. They're using LLMs as the underlying decisioning, and they're arguably really not data driven. And so those different types, if you mix them together, you start to get the best of both worlds. So not only is it sweet, but it actually can really pick out some of those really nifty formulas and other things that you wouldn't find otherwise. And you aren't guessing. So it also means the black box effect. Oh, okay, it came up with this thing. Prompt engineering was people just basically trying to figure out and troubleshoot why they couldn't get the exact answer they wanted. And even when they did, the next thing they did, a lot of the clay operators find out, as soon as you ask that LLM for the same answer about 27 times into it, it starts to give you even different answers again. It evolves, random hallucinations. That machine learning lets you get something that's much more deterministic, very specific, versus kind of probabilistic. And you can use them both in different times and shapes and ways. But yeah, blending them together tends to give you the best of both worlds and maximize the likelihood that you get an ROI or a good outcome that you desire.
I love it. What are you going to show us today? Give me the goods, because we're going to get behind the scenes and see stuff. What are we going to go through?
And you don't necessarily have to use Wrench on this stuff by any means. As much as I appreciate people using our stuff, you can do this. There are other ways to get other tools that can kind of lean in and do some of these things. Again, we've got kind of like our methodology and other things that obviously I'm going to lean on things that I patent. But here's one of yours. As an example, when you go to some of your profile and information of Jonathan, GTM and AI strategist, passionate about people, it can do things like analyze what you're talking about in here, and it can recognize a ton of those cues that you are or are not using that can tell us more information about what you do, what you say, and how you say it. It's recognizing you as an introverted analytical. And again, one of the things, like you notice, there's a bunch of these tiny little rules, and this one is a kind of a unique one. It's a rare one. I almost want to change the title of this one to ambivert, but it can recognize about 36 different personalities in the US population. And again, it's using a lot of your authored content to drive those. So it can basically figure out a lot of your decision-making patterns, what you talk about, when and how you talk about it. Again, based on even stuff as little as punctuation. So this specific personality type, that introverted analytical, is usually almost an ambivert, halfway between an extrovert and an introvert. Kind of people that can go, yes, I can be fun at parties, but I also get very tired. I go home and I need to take a nap after I talk to a bunch of people.
What does it do with AI generated content? Because I write my content, but it's with AI, and then I tweak it, but it's an AI. How's that can take into consideration? Because it's not me actually writing everything.
Yeah, a lot of the things that you do, as I mentioned earlier, so there's many different dimensions of what you can do. Because again, your preferences and a lot of the nuance of your prompt is going to be reflected into that. Does it dilute the signal from that perspective? Yes, it absolutely can. It absolutely can. What it can also still do, even if those aren't there, is actually get a lot of insight about how much you know about specific subject matter. So underline here.
Let's see what it says about me. Let's see here.
So this is what I could do, because I have a bunch of different insights that I care about that come from my company. We have A and B tests from copy and content that we want to test and put into the field. We have different products that we've posted, and all of these little dots, molecules, those are those ingredients that I was mentioning earlier in your cake. So I can go in and actually go, if I'm talking about the ideal customer profile, and I've got a handful. Wrench is obviously for sales teams, for marketing teams, for whatever. It can go, which of the ideal kind of customer profiles are you closest to? Digital marketing and agencies for us. That's for me, probably one of the larger targets.
So what's the ones in the center? Can I ask? What's the green ones in the center? I want to see what the difference is.
Oh, the different ones. So what this is like actually looking into the brain of some of the decisions. So it basically has all of these. They're represented and recommending, and they're doing vectorized text. So the content designed for Wrench.ai Art Attack to address high-level complex digital marketing accounts, focus on performance marketing strategists or directors within digital marketing agencies. So it's taking our ideal customer profile, behavior-based, job-based, title-based, and some other things. It's comparing those and putting that against your profile, again, your authored content. So it's taking Wrench and all of the different kind of, again, ingredients that make Wrench. What are our brand? What are our targets? What are our people? And all of the other kind of ingredients towards the center. Like if you put this, I'm doing two different things. We're doing on the vertical axis, how prominent is that copy and content in your own targeted and authored content? So it's recognizing, hey, what does he talk about when he talks about himself? And then on the horizontal axis, it's starting to measure which messages that we talk about that you also talk about that are also incorporated into conversion optimization. So the further it is to the right, the more it's actually likely to be associated with, hey, by the way, the people that convert to Wrench, they actually talk about these things. So the more extreme it is to the upper right-hand corner, the more likely it is that I can incorporate that content, that messaging into my messages directly to you and have a positive experience for you. So the ones in the middle are kind of like neutral. They don't necessarily, like towards the top, it's, hey, they're prominent and they come up, but they're not necessarily valuable. You and I actually share a lot in common. It's using my own bio. It's comparing Dan and it's going, hey, how far are you going to get with Coach K by talking about yourself? It's like, you do it a lot, but just so you know, it's not necessarily helping your case. Talk more about like the digital
I like
marketing.
hearing about you. So, it's good. But I understand. If you didn't know me, it'd be a different story. Yeah, keep going. Yeah.
And so what it's doing is it's now taking and mixing that. It's understanding me, my business context, which I programmed into it. I told it about my products. I told it about my ideal customer profiles. I told it about the people that are actually occupying and working with my company. It's comparing that to a machine learning model that counted and went through a ton of people and said, who signs up for your newsletters? Who signs up for the trials? Who signs up for your customer and contracts? And then now it's mixing and matching and using that algorithm to figure out, what do you say? What do they say? And where does that stuff work the best and the most? So it takes that, builds the cake. It's that cake recipe. And then it can use that to basically customize and build those other profiles that help us like basically customize messages. So if we go and say, hey, we're going to be talking to Coach K, or I need to invite him to, hey, we're both in Utah and we're going to try to see if we can invite him to an event. It can recognize if you, me, and Wrench talk about NBA versus NFL and go, hey, by the way, Coach K is an NFL person. Let's go talk about NFL tickets. He's more likely to respond positively to that. And when it generates the message, now it's saying, hey, you could say 50 different sports, say NFL. One, not just because you mentioned it, but because I mentioned it and I have it kind of in my universe of messages as well. So this way I can actually recommend things that are relevant to both of us. And you're more likely to get higher converting messages and all of that fun stuff involved with it using that. And again, it's auditable. So if I'm right, if I'm wrong, I can actually go and troubleshoot the methodology behind the scenes and get better at it. And it helps us get better lead scores, better messages, better customized content. You can feed all this stuff. There's agents that are tied into the platform as well. I've got my own Dan bot, and this Dan bot, he reads my profile. I have the same scatter plots that you do, your profile, and then he knows about Wrench. He can put it all together. So if I'm writing content, he can go, hey, I can do all the decisioning to go, hey, what does Dan know about? What does John know about? And we can write something that's relevant and conversion optimized for both of us. And you can apply that to a bunch of stuff. You can make all types of content, emails, texts, ads, images, on-brand content, all types of fun stuff.
That is fascinating. So what do you see then as the average? And by the way, check on time. Are you okay in time for 10, 15 minutes? You okay?
Let's go for it if you can. Sure.
Yeah.
Time for you.
So as far, I would assume, and thank you for that, I would assume that with this level of, to me, there's, I had someone tell me once, which I agree with this, which is there's personalization and then there's relevance, right? They're
Yeah.
not the same. So it
Nope.
feels like that this is personalizing based on what is relevant. Those two things together. So I would assume
Yeah.
that when you're able to see, I like the NFL and I'm ambivert and I'm whatever, blah, blah, blah stuff, that the conversions would go up because theoretically speaking, you're hitting on things I would most likely respond to, right?
Yes.
So
Very much.
have you seen that as a result as you've gone into companies like that actually happens?
Oh yeah. There's actually kind of a two-pronged axis of two things that you want to get right. Word of mouth marketing and stuff like that is largely driven by two things. Again, relevance and novelty. People have emotional responses, they have exponential responses to emotional content. One of the things that really works well in viral content is it has to be emotional, but simultaneously. So surprises, whether good or bad, have an exponential effect on people. If you're driving around in traffic and someone does and cuts you off, you assume that we both knew the rules of the road. So the fact that you surprised me, that's where road rage comes from. Hey, wait, you're supposed to know how we do this. That surprise.
You're supposed to, yeah, you're expecting something, yeah.
Word of mouth marketing and that type of stuff works the exact same way. So if you take those and you can figure out, okay, cool, what is the stuff that's within the universe of relevant to me? And simultaneously, can I understand enough to find something really novel? I can start to do things. There is a ton of stuff. Your couples, the likelihood that you mirror the personality of your spouse is very high. If you want to stay together, and extroverts like extroverts, introverts like introverts, extroverts and introverts clash a little bit. We did a study on a client that was doing direct sales and had a massive 27 million person database. And when we went and analyzed, they wanted us to figure out, how do you spot the highest performance, highest potential salesperson before training? And they went, so what do we need to do once we get them? How much do we have to train them? And guess what? The two main things that really drove that, we analyzed all the salespeople and all the customers to figure out what personality types and everything they shared.
Yeah.
And the best salespeople, they received their check first, meaning they had early success. They got their commission check early. They didn't have more training. And all of the people they sold to very much mirrored their personality, regardless of what their personality was. Extroverts liked other extroverts. So you can actually remove a ton of that psychological friction by literally just mirroring someone's personality. Again, that's why a lot of the trick of, if I can just pair people up with people that have similar opinions or whatever else to them, that oftentimes is like half the battle. It speeds up the sales cycle. And then if you can introduce the novelty simultaneously, which is where we go, all right, cool. So let's build a platform that allows you to kind of predict and even kind of pre-test before you do A/B testing. Go write up a new set of copy around like, all right, what happens if we include, obstacles in marketing? You can actually find out, just like we just did, like which part of the message might actually show up a little bit towards that outside layer on the right or the bottom, that little quadrant thing you pull back up. But the top right was things that you're saying that work. The bottom right was things that you aren't saying that will work. So you can actually start to figure out what are the things that would be novel and new and interesting, and then incorporate those into the messaging, and then actually, throw them into Nano Banana or whatever else as rules. You're more likely to get something relevant and surprising that increases the conversions accordingly.
Well, from a marketing perspective, for example, and you don't really think about this, I'm just going to spitball some of these for a second. So theoretically, could you use Wrench to do it? Because like in marketing, it's going one by one, but it's also at the whole of the understanding what is where are the potential buyers and where are they looking so I can reach them where they're looking, right?
Yeah.
So would you be able to use Wrench to understand, let's see if I can explain this. If I knew my customers matched a certain profile of whatever kind, they upsold a certain amount, they stayed a while, they have longer lifetime value, blah, blah, all this stuff. So could I take what I'd learned about my customers and then map that to potential pipelines so I can map better both in marketing and in prospecting to similar profiles that have more success? Does that make sense? Like that?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about basically moving from the one-to-one version, the middle ground, which is kind of like where people usually use personas. And then you have kind of your elevator pitch at the other extreme where you have one message, one time to everybody, right?
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. So what I've found, because one big thing that we wanted to solve with this and with that patent originally around early adopters was because most personas are bullshit. When you go in, and I dare anybody on this that's watching this, go look at your personas and then go see how much dust they've collected. Most of the time people take those, they spend a bunch of time hemming and hawing, and the person that has the coolest looking turtleneck gets to decide what our personas are. They aren't driven by data. And ultimately, when you actually parse apart those data and populations, Early adopter and late adopter is a really good way to do it because, again, you have people like there's the people that are really into it and really leaning in. And in every category, there's the people that are waiting for discounts and need it to be a perfect experience before they'll jump in because they're just not that interested, right? The message is when you start to segment, those populations are dramatically different. I've done it a dozen times where we pulled up everybody in a user's population and we started to use that technology to figure out, all right, if we used Oprah as a potential spokesperson and Gordon Ramsay as another potential spokesperson and, you know, The Rock is another one, you find out that amongst that population, there's trends that kind of happen as you go through that adoption curve. So there's really early innovators and peers and competitors on the front end. Early adopters had one preference. Late adopters had a very different preference. They have different preferences in flavor profiles and everything else. So what we found was like the persona should, done well, actually give you a diverse set, meaning that we have different versions of the same message that satisfy the largest overall population when put together. So I want to go, okay, cool. There's the people that prefer the left version. There's the people that prefer the right version. But if I do those two, I'd still cover the universe of my available target population. So yeah, what we do and the cool thing about the method in which we do it is it does actually allow you to start kind of building personas that are data driven. We can go the most common personality that is amongst your early adopter population is this. And by the way, the most common job title amongst 5 options is, you know, digital marketing director. And it allows you to go, okay, cool. So what you need largely is usually something closer to 4 to 8. And that can include early adopters, late adopters, which people intuitively understand. Their different preferences and messaging. You get more complex and more syllables available to early adopters with more jargon. And you have to remove that complexity as you get to the later adopter. That makes her a little bit more programmatic. Again, a lot of the reasons those marketing teams like us is they inherently kind of understand that intuitively for the general kind of category. And it makes it easier to apply it to different clients as they jump in and out of different categories. Today we're doing SaaS and tomorrow we're doing pizza. All right. Early adopters in pizza are foodies. Ah, okay. I know what a foodie is. They're not necessarily the chef or the cook. They just love the food. That's the early adopter there, and they can reapply them. The one caveat that is interesting that I think is kind of going away, that elevator pitch on the other extreme, it's kind of a mistake and a misnomer because most of the time it's what you want to hear. My elevator pitch is what is easiest for me to pitch and position against. It's the most comfortable. It's not the right one. The right one is what your audience wants to hear.
That's fascinating. So do you feel like, curious as we go, I'm going to ask a couple more questions. As we go more into this world of, again, using OpenClaw as the example, where AI is the one receiving the message or AI is the one going out and seeing things. It's your, no longer mapping to a person profile, mapping to an AI that is mapping for the person. Like, where do you see that world going and how are you planning around that?
Absolutely. I think the world is evolving, and I think that is the new and the really interesting innovation. OpenAI didn't invent GPTs. They made them popular, and they made them popular based on that interface, that chat interface. That was the real innovation that OpenAI leveraged and innovated with. I think that is your, call it whatever, Web 3.0, 4.0, whatever. That is your interface. As people, we used to put glasses on people that had cameras that would focus on their eyeballs to try to figure out if you put them in the
where they're looking
section, it would try to figure out where they were looking. It's kind of like how your mouse pointer works. It's largely correlated with what you're reading. And we were trying to do it to figure out where their attention was because you wanted to create box art that provided a little bit more pop so you could get their attention and they would kind of pull it. When we started putting and you started recognizing, you remember pop-ups back in Netscape days?
Oh yeah, totally.
Millennials built a filter. Millennials' eyes would skip over the pop-ups. They wouldn't even know. So not only would they ignore them, they didn't know that they saw them in the first place. So they developed a new kind of behavior to actually completely overlook kind of that element there. And I think now we're getting to the point now where the incremental cost of new content is zero. You can create Nano Banana, Photoshop, photo quality, everything for essentially effectively zero, right? And what that means is, at least first, everybody's going to create 1 million versions of every position to try to capture content. We almost are already past that. Yeah. Then the next one is how do you get something really relevant? So I think what is happening there is you're going to have an agent that represents the sender. I don't want to go and Google stuff. I'm going to go send my agent. You saw Dan Bot. My Dan Bot goes and searches the web for me. It looks at 15 different competitors. It knows my preferences and it comes back. So I do think that a big part of this is understanding who do you talk to? What do you say? that AI agent using an MCP, using embeddable vector-based tokens, and the clearest, purest signals possible is going to be the one. The person that can communicate their value the clearest, and what their target population is, and how to use their product, and to use a TLDR and bullets and everything else, is going to be the one that gets the most attention, and then goes back to its owner, its boss, whatever, and gives them the advice of, hey, here are the 5 that I found, but this one seems to be the best fit. So I think it basically for us is like, how do you position and teach that and treat that as another audience? So yeah, same thing we do when we're optimizing a lot of content for the mathematical purity and clarity that it takes. And again, I think most of the companies that you're going to be seeing are going to be very small, like less than 100 people. They're not going to have a ton of overlap in roles. You're going to have one marketing curator, one sales curator, and they're going to be organizing and running their own kind of mini org charts of agents that are going to be operating on their behalf. And the goal there is to go, okay, cool. Can I make it as clear as, all right, who's your boss? Who's your operator? And I'll give you the best and perfect position for them that makes your decision fast, easy, and likely to work. Those companies are going to have small teams, and they're going to have small customer bases with very specific offerings. And so being able to stand out amongst those long tail millions of offerings is going to be a big deal. So you'll have smaller companies maybe making more, maybe doing less, but not needing to have a big company that blockbusters and sells everybody the same single product. So it's still there. Yeah. It's not going to go away. The communication will evolve. Again, it's one of the reasons that I think we're kind of insulated in that premise. Is it's like marketing in the sense of, cool, as soon as you figure out what new is, new starts to age. And now new needs to be newified again.
New again. Yeah. Yeah. The whole place where we're going is, again, just fascinating. It's kind of like, it doesn't change even like when I have people come in, they want to talk about AI strategy on a business level. I'm like, your business principles and your foundation is the same. Now, how you get there is what's going to be changed, but it doesn't mean you all of a sudden stop doing good business principled stuff, you know?
Oh yeah.
And the more that someone misses the fundamentals, the more hard time they have with trying to adopt AI, because they don't have the fundamentals. AI is just chaotic, you know?
Wholeheartedly agree. You're going to be, you're going to take your work with you a bit. Like I was talking to people about it today. It's a little bit, it is a different thing, or it isn't, can I just produce that one widget? It's, can I replicate my decision-making pattern, my decision hierarchy, and my tastes and my style? Because again, right now you're seeing this beige emerge. Everyone sounds like ChatGPT. And people are already starting to say, okay, cool, AI slop, right? That's the vanilla. And so they're already starting to say, and they do prefer, it's great that it writes perfectly grammatically correct copy. That's fantastic. But the next piece is, okay, again, how do you differentiate? And having a very clear preferential style means you need to be really good at customizing the context of your message, but also making it really stand out and resonate as you, not just ChatGPT. So again, differentiating and going, all right, here's how I package my product, and here's the roadmap of what I do. I don't know your exact destination, but I know exactly basically what step 1, step 2, and step 3 are. Yeah. And maintaining that as kind of a proprietary tool is how I basically kind of build my moat in the future. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Crazy. I could ask you so many questions, but again, it would probably take a long time, but still, this is just fascinating. It's crazy because it's different to say, hey, we have an AI that helps you with prospecting, which again is just basically whatever system prompt that the tool has plus your prompt that runs a call to an LLM that gives you an email. It's just not the same as what you're talking about. And I think that's what hopefully people get out of this, is that there's a huge difference between specialized, deep, like you said, relevant information and data and messages versus just the best prompt that whoever made to do it on LLM, you know? Absolutely. So I think it's pretty cool. It's really cool. Well, Wrench.ai is the website. And are you okay if I share your LinkedIn on the show notes? Is that okay?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, please.
Cool. And I just want to say thank you so much. I can't wait to see you. And I don't know if you'll do this, but maybe we'll have a Wrench open claw version, maybe in the future, something like that. What do you think?
It's kind of, we're working on stuff right now. Yep.
Yes. Okay. When that happens, I want to see what it looks like, because that would be like open claw plus Dan would be kick A.
Let's play with it.
That'd be cool.
I'm humbled. I appreciate that. And I'll hope to satisfy it. But we got some cool stuff in the can.
I'm excited, man. Thanks for coming to the show, dude. It's so good to have you.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI Podcast. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and come back for more.